The Aggies could be on the hunt for a new offensive coordinator, but who do they have in mind?
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. You are Locked On the Texas A&M Aggies. I'm your host, Matt Galatzan, publisher of Texas A&M Aggies on SI. Welcome to Locked On Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Show is brought to you by FanDuel. Today's, if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. DJ, we got kind of a bombshell yesterday about Colin Klein potentially being in line for the Kansas State head coaching job with the retirement of Chris Klieman. It makes sense. He's a Kansas State alum. He's kind of a big deal there. Everybody loves him. It's kind of like Scott Frost at Nebraska, except I don't think he would be terrible. And obviously that's a big deal because Texas A&M has had one of the most explosive offenses in the country this season. Colin Klein is obviously a big reason for that. And it's not official. They're still having discussions. It looks like it's trending that way, however. So we're going to go through a few different candidates of who we think could replace him should he decide to go. A little bit of speculation, but it's fun. We're waiting for college football playoffs, so it's a lot of speculation. And then we'll get into some more early signing day stuff later in the show. But let's start with this hot board that we put together over at Texas A&M Aggies on SI, DJ. The first name that comes to mind for me, and you can also throw in your own if you'd like. The one that makes the most sense in terms of, continuity and keeping things as similar to what they are now as you possibly can. It's got to be Holman Wiggins, the wide receivers coach. They love him over there. He knows the system. He knows what they like to do. Obviously, his decision-making is going to be a little bit different than Colin Klein in terms of game planning and play calling and all those different things. But he knows what makes Marcel Reed tick. He knows how to get these receivers in good positions to succeed. And I think he could be a solid choice.
Yeah, I feel like he's the easy choice there, especially considering like today's day and age with the transfer portal and everything. You have to keep in mind that this hire can essentially lose your entire wide receiver group if it's not the right guy that they want. So I think keeping him around would easily be the right decision if you want to go the route of, our guys like this guy. We're going to keep him there to hopefully keep these guys around and keep building on what we built in 2025. I think another choice that'll be that kind of direction is the offensive line coach, Adam Cushing. I mean, he's been really part of the main reason why this A&M rushing attack has become one of the best in the nation. One of the main reasons why this offensive line crew went from, scrolling on Twitter, all you look at is, oh my gosh, this offensive line sucks. They're not giving, Connor Wegman time, to, oh my gosh, this crew is awesome. Like this, they have all day. I think Adam Cushing would be another good pick there.
Yeah, and the thing about both of these candidates is they have experience within the system already. They're familiar with the roster. They're familiar with the staff. They're familiar with the culture. And they know how to best utilize these players and put them in positions to succeed. Now, if you want to go on the outside and maybe change your identity a little bit because, you've had trouble beating Texas the last couple of years. The offense has been stagnant at times against Auburn. I mean, I'm being very nitpicky here, obviously, but let's say you want to change your identity a little bit. There's different directions you could go as well. One outside hire that I think could be a little bit of a splash is Buster Faulkner, Georgia Tech offensive coordinator. Georgia Tech's had one of the best offenses in the country this year, led by former Aggie Haynes King. In terms of, what they have been able to do on the field this year. They averaged 31.1 points per game, which is 28th in the country. It's right around where A&M is. They're 19th in the country in rushing yards with 203 yards per contest. They're 31st in passing, which is higher than A&M at 263 yards per game. And they're 12th in the nation in total offense, 466.3 yards per game. Haynes King has completed 71.7% of his passes in Buster Faulkner's system. He's thrown for 12 touchdowns. He's run for almost 1,000 yards and 15 more touchdowns. He's got experience in the SEC. He's got experience with, developing a quarterback with Haynes King. He's one of the top offensive minds in the country, and he obviously excels with dual threat quarterbacks. So for Marcel Reed, I mean, you're obviously going to have to pay this guy a lot of money because he's going to be a head coaching candidate at some places. He's going to be an offensive coordinator candidate at some other bigger schools who are breaking in some new coaches. But if you present the right offer, he could be a really, really good fit in Aggie land.
Yeah, I agree. I think, especially what he's been able to do with Haynes King, I think Haynes King has a very similar skill set to Marcel Reed, but Marcel Reed's is just elevated. I think that, Faulkner is one of those guys where I think Texas A&M could be having the same exact conversation 3 years down the road if they hire him. Their coach, offensive coordinator, takes a head coaching job, and that's not a bad thing. That's honestly what you want. I mean, you don't want that, but that means you're doing something right and making these hires. So I think that he could be almost a home run hire there. Another guy.
Just real quick before you go on to your next guy.
Yeah.
That's what I think everybody needs to understand about this. It sucks losing a coordinator or a position coach, but when you're an elite football team and you're putting up numbers and you're being productive, whichever position group that you're the coach of or whichever coordinator you are, you're going to get hired away somewhere else because you're going to get a better opportunity, and that's just the sign of a healthy program because that means you're succeeding. Anyway, continue.
Yeah. And so kind of going a little bit of a different direction, a lot of NFL programs now have been kind of taking away failed head coaches and plugging them in at their coordinator position. And I think that's something that A&M could do with this offensive coordinator spot. I could see them bringing in a guy like Billy Napier.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, if he doesn't get any other looks for a head job, I could definitely see him taking an SEC offensive coordinator role.
Yeah, I mean that's what he made his bones doing with Louisiana and back in the past. Coming through the Nick Saban tree he was an offensive guy, and a lot of people expected that to work out at Florida. I just don't think that he approached being a head coach the right way. But as a coordinator, I think he would be a great fit anywhere. He's a good offensive mind. He runs a little bit more of a pro style system. It's an interesting idea. I like it a lot because he's obviously a smart guy. In that same vein, and this is the last guy that I'll bring up, there's a guy that used to be the head coach at Arkansas, and he was an offensive coordinator at Texas A&M at one point. And, he's available. Bobby Petrino, he's one of the best offensive minds in college football. He took a really bad Arkansas roster, with Talon Green and a bunch of guys, and made them one of the most explosive offenses in the country. Can you imagine what he could do with the talent that's on the Texas A&M offensive roster? It might be kind of special. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, especially with Mike Elko being a defensive-minded head coach. Mm-hmm. Felt like Jimbo Fisher kind of handicapped Petrino a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
And if you just give Petrino the reins, it could be pretty exciting.
Actually, absolutely. Like he's one of those guys that he can adapt to whatever offensive personnel you have. And if you don't have a Jimbo Fisher trying to get his hands into everything and muddy up the offense, and just let him do his thing, kind of like Ryan Day did with Chip Kelly a couple of years ago, it could be a home run.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that one's it's a familiar face. It's one of those guys where it's like, do we want to bring him back? But I feel like that should be a serious question. Um, yeah, he's just one of those guys. Again, maybe not the best head coach, but just excels in the coordinator position.
Yeah. Do you have any more on your hot board, or no? Are you all tapped out?
Yeah, you mentioned him, Chip Kelly. He's available.
Yeah.
He just got canned with the Raiders, but he has college collegiate experience. He was the offense coordinator at Ohio State when they won the championship. He's proven that he's done it. He has head coach experience. Why not bring him in for an interview? See what he's got.
Yeah. Again, all this is speculation because we don't even know if Colin Klein's actually going to take the job. As of the time we record this podcast, he has not accepted the job officially yet. They have not officially hired him. So we assume it's going to happen. Maybe it will. If so, those are just some names to think about. By the time they actually start their search, we could have a whole bunch of different names that come up and things like that. But let's change gears a little bit, DJ. Texas A&M got a new commit. We'll tell you who that is next. The holidays are officially here, which means gift hunting season is on. And if you want something meaningful, personal, and guaranteed to get a reaction, Aura Frames is the gift that delivers every time. It's not just something you wrap; it's something it's a way to share memories. Because Aura isn't your average picture frame, you can preload the frame with photos before gifting it. So when you plug it in, the memories are already there. No apps to figure out, no setup headaches, just instant smiles. I mean, who would you gift this to? Grandparents, parents, newlyweds, anyone who loves photos. It's endless photos, pictures, and 30-second videos through the Aura app. And it adds a personalized message right inside the frame so that the gift feels thoughtful from the moment it's opened. For a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames, named #1 by Wirecutter. Use promo code LOCKEDONCollege at checkout. That's auraframes.com, promo code college. This deal is exclusive to listeners, and frames sell out fast, so order yours now and get it in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. I got one of those Aura frames for my parents, and it's really cool, man. They love it. By the way, thank you for making Locked On Aggies your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. DJ, Texas A&M got a new commit. It was a late one, and it was kind of a surprise. It's another running back. They already had KJ Edwards in the recruiting class, but very late in the process, they have flipped Carson Baker, a 4-star running back who was committed to Florida previously. He's a 6'2", 200-pound running back from Fairburn, Georgia, and he kind of gives you another running back in this stable that maybe he doesn't have to play immediately, but his long-term upside is pretty high because he gives you something that you don't currently have in that running back core, and that's power.
Yeah, he's definitely one of those guys that, especially with Le'Veon Moss being a senior and kind of being that power guy that the Aggies have used. He's definitely one of those guys that could, on 3rd and 1, third and short, 4th, could kind of step in and get those hard-nosed yards that we're used to Le'Veon Moss getting the ball on, or a guy like Amari Daniels. And especially being a Florida commit, that kind of ties back to the Billy Napier thing. That I'm sure he would be really happy if Napier was the OC. But he's one of those guys that, this A&M team really leans on its run game. And you can never just have too many good running backs. So A&M will gladly take him.
Yeah, he's he's one of those guys that's just physically imposing. He's got blazing track and field speed as well. So not only is he powerful, but he's fast. He's really good in the outside zone game, which Texas A&M likes a lot. He can reach his top end speed very quickly. He creates explosive plays, and he can create contact, and he's really good in short yardage about lowering his pads. When you have to have those short yardage situations like a 3rd and 2 on the goal line, 4th and short. As a junior, he ran for 1,282 yards and 13 touchdowns, averaged 8.84 yards per carry. And this guy played in the 5A, the 5A classification in Georgia, which is really good football. Georgia is, everybody talks about Texas being number one when it comes to high school talent. Georgia's really close. Georgia and Texas are neck and neck, and if you play well in the state of Georgia, just like if you play well in the high classifications in the state of Texas, you have a really good opportunity to succeed at the college level. And he's also a guy that, has a lot of impressive offers. South Carolina, Florida State, Alabama, Florida, Auburn, Clemson, Georgia, Georgia Tech, Louisville, Miami, Michigan, Missouri, Ohio State, Ole Miss, Penn State, TCU, Texas, Tennessee, USC, who just finished with the number one class in the country, Washington, Wisconsin. So everybody wanted this guy, and you're able to flip him from Florida during the early signing period. That's a big deal.
Yeah, I think it's a big testament to, like I said earlier, what Coach Adam Cushing is doing with that offensive line. You're having some of the best backs in the nation now. You have two of them that are watching what you're doing, seeing this Joe Moore Award semifinalist offensive line, and saying, we want to run behind those guys. We want to run behind that scheme. We want to be a part of that ground game. And it just speaks leaps and bounds.
Yeah, absolutely. And with his commitment, Texas A&M has moved up to the number 9 class in the country per 24/7 Sports. He joins KJ Edwards, who we'll talk about in a minute, as the second running back in this class. And going forward, now you're talking about Reuben Owens and Jamarian Morrow and KJ Edwards and Carson Baker. That's a really good group. So Texas A&M is hammering that that running back room, and they're doing a really good job. They're getting some elite runners, and they're going to have a deep stable once again. Because this year they had one of the best running back groups in the country until Le'Veon Moss went down, and still without Le'Veon Moss, with Reuben Owens and Amari Daniels and EJ Smith and Morrow, it's still a really good room. It's just going to continue to be a really elite room for years to come. All right, this was a little bit of a quicker segment because our next segment is going to be a little bit longer. We're going to kind of examine this early signing day class and give you our superlatives, and I'm going to tell you exactly who I think could be an instant impact freshman next year for the Aggies. So stick with us after this break, and we'll be right back. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift, a receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump in on the moment. Whether it's live spreads and money lines that adjust instantly, player prop updates as guys heat up, which DJ and I love to do our prop bets during the season. We've done a pretty good job with those. FanDuel is a great place to do that. And you can bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game that moves fast. The game moves fast. So can you. Whew. Man, these post-signing day ad reads are really really locking me up today. I was up at 5:30 yesterday, and we were rolling all day until about midnight last night. So it was a banger. Go check out Texas A&M Aggies on SI for all that great content. DJ did some kick-ass stuff over there for us. But anyway, let's get into this signing class, DJ. We're going to talk about our superlatives. And superlatives are, let's say MVP, early impact guy, most underrated, most this, most that. So we're going to get into that today. And we're going to start with, we're each going to give our MVP of the class. And for me, I think it's pretty clear. I stole this one before you could because Yeah, I'm the host, so I get to pick whichever ones I want, DJ. And I went with Tristan Givens. He's the lone true 5-star commit of the class per 24/7 Sports. He is an elite edge rusher. He's coming in at an extremely opportune time with Cassius Howell likely going to the NFL next season. You got to replace that production. And Tristan Givens is an absolute freak of nature. He's been compared to James Pierce, who used to be over at Tennessee. Is now was a first-round pick with the Atlanta Falcons. He's a linear edge. This is from Andrew Ivins, the director of scouting at 24/7 Sports. He's a linear edge rusher with some explosive takeoff and high pressure rate that has a chance to bake into a true difference maker up front. He's still relatively new to the role after starting his prep career off as a pass catcher, but has attacked with no shortage of urgency from both 2 and 3-point stance and a multi-look front that is very similar to Cassius Howell, by the way. He lacks a little bit of polish, but transitions from speed to power with ease and can easily find his way around offensive tackles. He's very natural in his movements. And if you look at his stats, 18 sacks as a sophomore, 12 sacks as a junior. They have not posted his senior year stats yet. But, I mean, an edge rusher who used to play wide receiver, he's kind of a freak.
Yeah, that's scary. I know when I was playing tackle, I'd line up and see a guy that it was always the 2-point stance, the guys that were a little bit skinnier and taller. And I'd look at him and be like, man, I'm going to have a rough night. And this guy really reminds me of one of those guys. And it's just not fun dealing with him. I'm happy I get to watch him now. But he can really turn into a game wrecker. He has the footwork. He has, the size. He may not have the weight yet, but that's Division I college football for you. It doesn't matter if you have the weight, they'll put it on you. And he's just, it should be so much fun to watch. He's a basketball guy too. There's really, really not much you could say negatively about this guy.
Yeah. And they're going to need to put a little weight on him, but that's what, that's what Mike Elko hired Tommy Moffitt to do, right?
Yep, and he's one of the best in the business at it.
One of the best in the business. So give me your MVP, DJ.
Yeah, we talked about him earlier in the show. I got KJ Edwards. I think going down the stretch, he can really make a RB1 case. Maybe not next year, but a couple years down the road, he may be that Le'Veon Moss. He may be the Reuben Owens type guy that everybody's watching. He's out there on 1st and 10, first snap of the game. He's going to be the guy that everyone looks to hand the ball off to, and I think he'll be one of those guys for A&M.
Yeah, I've got KJ Edwards coming up a little bit here as one of my other superlatives. Let's move on to most versatile. I'm going Brandon Arrington. This is a guy that was a two-way guy in high school. He played wide receiver. Theoretically, you could use him as a deep threat and play him at wide receiver. I don't think you're going to need to do that. But he can play multiple positions in the secondary as well. He's super athletic. He has great ball skills. He's probably going to play corner at A&M. He's one of the best athletes in the country regardless. And they could use him in a lot of different ways. They could use him as a field corner. They could use him as a boundary corner. They could line him up in the slot. They could play him at safety. I imagine he'll probably end up being, a field corner, kind of in the same vein as what they've got at A&M right now with Will Lee. Or is it Des Ricks that plays field? I don't know. He could do either. That's the point. He's that versatile. He could play on either side of the field. He can play inside. He can play in the box, whatever you need him to do. Super, super versatile prospect there.
Yeah, definitely reminds me a little bit of a Terry Bussey kind of guy where, going in, it's like you could play Bussey at corner. You could play him at safety. You could play him at receiver. Just reminds me of him. And one thing that really sticks out about this guy to me is that he ran at the AAU Junior Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
That's very scary. He had a 10-2-1 100-meter dash. That is very scary. Not a lot of guys can keep up with that. He's one of those guys that, if you're a receiver, you're not getting away from him. Even if you do, you get 2-3 steps on him, he'll close it just like that. So I definitely I agree with you on his versatility, and I think you can just put him wherever you want on the field.
Yeah, last as a junior at Mount Miguel, he had 57 catches for 527 yards. That's 17 yards per catch and 5 touchdowns, while also on defense recording 26 tackles and interception, 3 PBUs, and he did all that in 10 games, ladies and gentlemen. So, very versatile guy. Who do you got for most versatile, DJ?
I have Tamarian Watkins. They already said he's going to play linebacker at A&M, but he's 6'4", just a hair under, and he's about 200 pounds. He's listed as a 4-star. You turn on his tape. This guy does not. He played safety in high school, but he does not look like a safety. It's really, really like mind-boggling. He doesn't look like a safety at all. He looks like a linebacker. He honestly looks like an edge. But he has the speed to keep up with receivers, size to cover tight ends. He has the size and strength to put a hand in the dirt and play in the trenches. He's one of those guys that just you can honestly put him in any spot on the defense and it would make sense. And then on top of it, whenever he back meets a quarterback, meets a receiver, he brings intensity and violence, and it's pretty awesome to watch.
Yeah, this is a guy that could play at all 3 levels of the defense, and that is a definition of versatile. All right, let's go with our most underrated now. I'm going Aaron Gregory, the wide receiver out of Georgia. He is a guy that our guy Harrison Reno, who's also a co-host on this podcast, has raved about out of Douglas County High School in Douglasville, Georgia. He's extremely fluid. He's an outside receiver that has, all the skills you could possibly want in the type of system that A&M runs, which is very timing based. He's an advanced route runner. He's very shifty. He can change directions very easily. He's really good at sinking his hips before making those changes. If this guy can add some size to his frame, sitting there at 6'2.5", 177 pounds, if he could get somewhere up to 190, 195, by the time this kid's finished growing, he could be a beast. And I think he could play early, but he's going to be one of those guys when you look back, it's like, oh, it's just another one of the 4-stars. But he could end up being one of the best players in this class.
Yeah, I remember watching the highlights from, I want to say it was either a Rivals event or Adizero from Adidas. And this kid was all over the field. I know it's 7-on-7. I'm a big believer in 7-on-7 doesn't really matter. You put the pads on, that goes out the window. But I mean, he just looked significantly faster. He was constantly wide open. And this was against other 4 and 5 stars. So it's not like he was just out there running against, high school kids who are playing their last game ever. He just looked awesome. He looked a whole head and shoulders above everybody. And I definitely see him being one of the most underrated guys.
Yeah, absolutely. He had 52 catches for 915 yards, 17.6 yards per catch, and 9 touchdowns as a junior. He also is in the Navy All-American Bowl this past year. He's a long jump guy. He can do it all. And he played Georgia 6A football, which is the highest classification, and he dominated. So that is a very good sign. Give me your most underrated, DJ.
Yeah, I have a wide receiver, Mike Brown. He's an Aggie legacy. He plays over at Legacy School for Sports Science in Spring, Texas. And you may have heard something about his quarterback. 2027, Keyshawn Henderson committed to Houston. He's been putting up ridiculous numbers, 500, 600 yards a game. And his favorite target is Mr. Mike Brown. Brown's been a huge part of Keyshawn's numbers, and it's really just been him finding the open guy and getting the ball to him. And most of the time, it is Mike Brown. So a lot of the attention goes to the quarterback, but the receiver is also the one getting open and catching the ball. So if you get a chance, go watch their tape. You can find Keyshawn Henderson's, and you'll see Mike Brown all over it, and it's really exciting.
Yeah, Keyshawn Henderson, number 1 quarterback in the 2026 class, signed with Houston. I wonder how they did that. Probably a big NIL check. All right, let's finish this thing out, DJ. Most impactful player, instant impact player in the class. For me, it's KJ Edwards, because you're probably losing Le'Veon Moss. You still have Reuben Owens, but you need another running back, and I know Jamarian Morrow is going to be there. But if you've watched KJ Edwards' tape, he really reminds you, and I mean, I may be aging myself a little bit here, but if you go back to North Carolina, back in the late 20 teens and like early 2020, he really reminds you a lot of Michael Carter. He plays above his weight. He's explosive out of his cuts. He's really one of those one cut slash and go guys with great agility. He's very explosive. He's great at making you miss. He's slippery. He's got a low center of gravity, great pad level. He's not the most physical guy in the world, but he's one of those guys that can just make you miss and find the open hole when it doesn't look like it's there. Think a little bit like, Aggie fans will be familiar with this guy. Think of Trey Wisner at Texas. He's not the biggest guy in the world. He's not the most powerful guy in the world, but he's agile and he makes you miss. The difference is KJ Edwards has some top end speed where Trey Wisner does not. So think of a better Trey Wisner. And I think that's something that Texas A&M fans might be interested in.
Yeah, for sure. I know watching Trey Wisner kill the Aggies the past 2 seasons, it's not been fun. But it would be pretty fun to have a guy like that on A&M side. And KJ Edwards he's just a beast. I forget which game it was, but it was in high school football playoffs. He had something like 190 yards on like 13 carries. 13 carries. It was insane. He had like 3 touchdowns. I remember looking at it and just being like, this kid is not real.
Yeah,
but
he's unbelievable.
It'll be exciting to see him.
He ran a 10.99 100-meter dash, by the way, in track and field. Really, really fast guy. As a junior, ran for 1,789 yards and 23 touchdowns. That's 12.6 yards per carry. 12.6. He also had 188 yards and 2 scores, one of which was from 86 yards out in the 4A Division II state championship win in 2024. So, he also averaged 10.09 yards per carry as a sophomore. And 11.38 yards per carry as a freshman. This is in Texas high school football, ladies and gentlemen. So, really good player. Give me your most impactful real quick, DJ.
Yeah, I have a 3-star kicker, Asher Murray. He went 44 for 47 on PATs in high school, and 12 for 14 on field goals. With A&M's kicking woes, that just might be their Achilles heel. That feels like the one spot where they're being held back. I wouldn't be surprised to see him come in and compete for the starting kicking role.
Yeah, it's not often that you have to have a kicker be an impact player for you in year one, but Randy Bond and Zirkle have not really been it these last few weeks, so maybe this kid could come in and do something special. But that's going to do it for another episode of Locked On Aggies. Thank you so much for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. For your next listen, please check out Locked On SEC. Chris Gordy brings you the latest from the best conference in college football. From the rivalries to the championship game and every game in between. Find Locked On SEC on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to our channel, subscribe to our podcast. Follow us on social media at Locked On Aggies. Follow DJ on X at DJ Burt. And follow me on X at Matt Galatzan. And we'll see you next time.